times. I've walked past this theatre. This right now is the first time I've actually been inside this theatre. So it's what an amazing place, and how nice to see it full. Thank you very much. Now, who's hardcore enough to stay for all 3 films? Well, for that, I will stick around to the very, very end. I'll do a Q&A after Shaun of the Dead, which will be sometime after 1:30 AM. So then we'll see who the most hardcore fans out there.
Can you see upstairs in the balcony here? Look around this theater. This was built in the 1920s. This is a silent era movie theater. There are ghosts in here. And it's the ghosts of cinema. All of the movies that we're watching tonight are on 35mm. And for those of you that didn't clap, because you don't care, we are completely making the transition. 100% of theaters in San Francisco, and I'm sure this is the case in England as well, transition to digital. And so, hey, you're getting older. That's what happens.
Can I point something out? That I want to see whether you guys are excited about it. All 3 of these films are in 2D. Hands up. Who of you are old enough to remember 2D? Okay, good.
Now, the first film that we really are going to have to start the show at some point. We're going to have an interview after Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And then after that, we'll do the introduction for Hot Fuzz. And then after that, we're going to do an introduction for Shaun of the Dead. And then after that, we're going to watch a trailer called Don't. Before Shaun of the Dead, correct. And then Edgar's going to be here. So, we've got a long night. You definitely need to arc yourself. You cannot leave the theater during Scott Pilgrim or the interview. We would not let you back in. I know how you guys sneak into the theater. So, turn off your cell phones right fucking now. There's no reason for you to be worrying about anything else except for this man right now. And he's got a thing.
I've done this a couple of times before, but I think this is a nice way of setting all of these films up. But this is something I like to do for you guys. Who here uses the website IMDb? And who uses the plot keywords function? Okay. The plot keywords function is that if you're looking up for a particular type of movie or a scene that happens in a movie, say you typed in decapitation into IMDb, you get The Omen, 1976 and 2006. So you get like but here's the funny thing about it, IMDb do not write these, it's user generated. And the list that I'm about to read to you is in the exact order that it appears on the Scott Pilgrim page. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to cheer if there are any of these subjects that you're particularly excited about seeing. Okay, you ready? I'm going to go through this fast. This is a lot of them. Okay, high school girl, love, rock band, video game, headbutt, punched in the face. If you click on Punched in the Face, your top 3 searches are Fight Club, The Matrix, and Kung Fu Panda. Woman in bra and panties, stalking, making out, falling from height, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, twin brother, breakup, Cancer says I love you, martial arts, slow motion scene, fight to the death, pissed in pants. Jealousy, verses in title, finger gun, hipster, blue hair, mammoth, animated sequence, swing, coffee shop, film within a film, punched in the stomach. Self-respect. This next one might be a mistake, this next one. Box office flop. Other box office flops include The Shawshank Redemption, Blade Runner, and Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon is a good company to be in. I'm very happy about being in the company of Flash Gordon. Snow, bass guitar, coin stabbed in the back, T kicked in the head, woman punching a man, orgasm. But what could be better than orgasm? What about death by orgasm? Now, if you look up death by orgasm, there's only 3 other entries, the third of which is a Spanish film called Asesino en Serio, which means I murder seriously. And the synopsis of I murder seriously: MiDNiTES is a police detective with a weird case on his hands. Gorky Solo, a priest, is responsible for a series of unique murders. He kills prostitutes with orgasms.
What's the name of that movie again?
It's called 2002 Spanish film, Asesino en Serio, I Murder Seriously. Check it out. Email, kicked in the face, pink hair, interracial relationship, psychic, dance, raised middle finger, sword fight, lesbian stereotype. I thought you were cheering for stereotype. Thrown through a wall, cheating boyfriend, bisexual, jumping through a window, gay sex, nightclub, gash in the face, sword, homosexual, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend relationship, surrealism, levitation, dream girl, absurd violence. And this one's great because this actually refers to Michael Cera. Bare-chested male. The top 3 bare-chested male searches are Gladiator, 300, and Toy Story 3. Face slap. Face slap. Demon-esque brother-sister relationship, exploding body, altered version of studio logo. Band's urination, kicked in the stomach, vegan, back from the dead, onomatopoeia, glowing eyes, roommate, amplifier, gay friend, gay kiss, glasses. But even better than that, what about a man with glasses? See also The Dark Knight, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Office Space. Drunkenness, Impalement, based on a graphic novel, and the final one, and possibly the greatest, Man Punching a Woman. How could one film possibly include all of those things?
Now, something that you just mentioned in that list is the alternate introduction to the film, and I'd love for you to talk about Oscar.
Oh yeah, my brother did that. My brother, who's an animator and illustrator, that was quite an early idea. What's funny about the Universal logo at the start is my brother did one version of it as a rough kind of graphic, and when we showed it the first screening, it was such a big laugh that we never did any more work to it. So what's great is that the studio logo is basically draft 1. So that's funny.
Now, and he's done other introductions. He's done other credit sequences.
Yeah, he did Attack the Block. And he did the logo for Shaun of the Dead as well. So he does a lot of different elements with it. He did a lot of graphics in this film. This is the film of mine that he worked on the most. You know, he had a big hand in the animation. You know, he kind of directed the animation sequences. And so we worked very closely, yeah.
Now, there's a ton of interviews about this film. There's one specific question that I thought was interesting was the Scott Pilgrim character you relate to, maybe.
Yeah, I think sort of, I'm pretty sure everybody, even if they don't admit to it, has been through like a period of being kind of like sort of quite, if not deliberately sort of selfish, definitely self-centered, and I think that sort of the idea is that he's like a character who, you know, is going through a little, you know, solipsistic phase of not really realizing that people around him are all flesh and blood, and he's kind of going through life like it's a video game. And so he, you know, he needs to learn some self-respect, which I think you'll find was 115.
Now, MiDNiTES for MANiACS, there's no irony in this film series. There's no such thing as a movie that is bad here. We're not laughing at these movies because they're so bad. In fact, Scott Pilgrim, I think, saved a lot of these people's lives last year. So we were talking very seriously about the character. Scott Pilgrim is an existential classic. And so I'm curious why you think it did not do well in the theaters just 1 year ago, when obviously it found some audience only a year later.
Well, let me put it this way. Would you rather we watch The Expendables or Eat, Pray, Love right now? No. I don't know, I think sort of sometimes, you know what, I think it's just one of those things that like, kind of all of the things that make the film cool, and most of the things on that list, are all things that are kind of challenging to a mainstream audience. And, you know, with very, very few exceptions, and maybe Inception was the one exception last year, most of the other films are completely do exactly what they say on the poster and in the trailer. And, you know, it was just a difficult thing outside people who read the books. You know, doing the press tour, you could kind of see that it was, like, sort of people just trying to get their heads around exactly what it was. And, you know, I like films, all of the 3 films you see tonight don't easily fit into one box. They're all comedy and something else. And I really like that, and I really like mixed genre things, but, you know, it's interesting, like, you know, like, Shaun the Dead was a horror comedy, Hot Fuzz is like an action comedy, and I always thought, whenever I did interviews and people ask me, so how would you describe Scott Pilgrim? As soon as I said more than 2 genres, I felt like a buzzer was going off. Like, you go like, sort of, it's like comedy, action, romance, and you know, and in truth, it's like sort of, it's kind of, weirdly, most of the films that kind of inspired it are all kind of cult movies, so it's probably, it's not a big surprise that it's got that in its DNA. So, you know, like, it's like, you know, I'm proud of the movie, you guys are here to see it and stuff, and like, some films hopefully kind of live beyond the first 3 days of the box office, you know, hopefully. Where are the Expendables now? Seriously, where are they? I think you should tell me.
Actually, they're getting to make a sequel. Now, there's a ton of people who have emailed me over this past 2 months leading up to this who want to know all about the new movies and how you're going to be the new Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi in just a few years, taking over Hollywood. And something before we watch Scott Pilgrim I would love for you to maybe talk about is when you were younger, is how you found yourself making a TV show called Spaced. I'm not talking about Spaced yet, but leading up to that, you are a fan of movies, and you don't make spoofs. You have somehow been able to love movies and now create movies that go right alongside movies you love.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the idea, I mean, you know, I think so. I don't really like the word spoof that much because, like, I kind of feel like, certainly with Shaun Dead and Hot Fuzz, and this one, they're kind of very reverential of the genres that they're in, so they're not making fun of them, they're kind of reveling in them. And in a weird way, Scott Pilgrim was kind of related to Space. When I read the first Scott Pilgrim book in 2004, it reminded me of Space in a way. Finally, O'Malley had never seen the show at that point, but it actually, I really loved doing that show. I was like 24 when I did it, and I really wanted to find something that I could kind of venture into that territory again. And in a way, like, Scott Pilgrim goes further than Tim and Daisy in Space because they would sort of disappear into their fancy life. But like Scott's life is his fancy life. What you're presented with is this daydream, you know. So I like the idea that, like, you know, in Space there'd be a flashback or a dream sequence and then they'd wake up. But like Scott Pilgrim is like the dream sequence where he never wakes up. So that was kind of my, you know, that's the way I think that show and this film are related in a way.
Were you ADD growing up? Were you just constantly eating sugar and playing video games and?
I didn't know if OCD and ADD existed when I was a kid. I didn't know if they existed as acronyms. I started to think more recently that maybe I had both and I was never diagnosed. But it's too late now. I shouldn't change my medicine now, should I?
Absolutely not. This is, for those of you, and please raise your hand proudly if you've never seen Scott Pilgrim. This is not a time to hiss or boo. This is exactly what the streaming is here for, is when a movie slips through the cracks. You get to see it very beautifully. That's right. And so throughout the movie, I know a lot of you have become majorly obsessed with the film, but you are constantly noticing little details through the whole movie. It wasn't just in the first 10 minutes. You're psychotic. The movie is absolutely psychotic.
There's a lot, I describe it as Sesame Street on crack because there's a lot of numbers and letters throughout the movie. There's a letter, every time the X's are about to come into it, or there's an X, there are X's in the shot, and the omen of X's, but then also each X is numbered and then numbers appear within the sequence. Some of them really obviously, like Mr. 3 here, and some of them really, really like sort of obscurely.
It's crazy.
So count the numbers and don't drink every time there's an X on screen. Otherwise you could die of alcohol.
Alright, so let's get this movie started here.
I'd like to pick a random keyword. I'll let Jesse pick a random keyword, and I'd like you to applaud when that comes up. So pick one word. Just one. Yeah.
Hipster.
that could last a long time. Let's go for coins. That's easy.
All right, that's good. That's good. Now, before the movie starts, I like to get everyone into the mood with trailers. The ones you're about to see tonight are for the next triple feature here at MiDNiTES for MANiACS. Sort of celebrating how the United States, we love to colonize everything in the universe. And before those three trailers, in fact, is a movie called Showgirls. Now, Showgirls is playing tomorrow night here at the Castro, Peaches Christ. San Francisco's premier drag queen is hosting. I think it's the 11th anniversary of Showgirls. She's played it every single year since it was released. And Paul Verhoeven is one of those directors that truly is misunderstood, sincerely. And so please, allow yourself to get excited through the trailers, through the movie, but also do not fucking ruin it for the rest of the people who are watching it for their very first time. Can we please give it up for Mr. Edgar Wright?